Essentially, this whole project began with a phone call from a customer a first-time customer, some business owner locally that we've done business with before. So we were acquainted with them, but didn't know them as one of our customers in the past. And they had been out traveling and seen, if you can, I don't know if you can see this board or not, but basically they had seen these sort of silhouette elephants. They're life size, and they're impressive in terms of size, but not so impressive, in my opinion, in terms of content. And they'd seen them and just wanted something in their yard that represented the elephant, something grand enough and big enough that had the presence of an elephant. This particular client, they are avid collectors of wildlife art, photography, painting. Their entire house is essentially a museum for their collection. So when they'd seen this elephant silhouette, they responded immediately because they have this grand backyard, and thought that the size and scale of it would deliver them some kind of an image of an elephant, and it was satisfying in terms of their aesthetic for wildlife. And when they approached us, hoping that we would build this silhouette of an elephant, my response was, I like the idea, but can we take it a little further? So this is just my initial storyboard that we did to start our discussion. You can see over here these two images, stills of a part of a sculpture Albert Paley did in St. Louis at the St. Louis Zoo. He's got a really distinct style, the way that he stacks heavy plates of steel and does a water jet cut layering that gives you this sort of impression of depth, and yet all of the material is just this sort of heavy layered two-dimensional kind of stacking. And I love the look. He captures the entire sort of the essence of the animal in that. And so I was really taken by that idea, having seen it. But what I wanted to do for our customer was to create a life-size and life-like elephant. And so I did a little research. We've got some images of some other more or less successful sculptural elephants, but then some actual images of just pictures of elephants in the wild. And this was just a very quick rendering that I did to represent what we had in mind, where we were really going to take this elephant in the round, using that kind of cutaway sheet metal concept, an homage to Albert Paley's work, but make it our own and make it a more lifelike animal in the round, so that it really had it occupied the space that an elephant really would. We made paper templates of every component that went into the model, and those templates then get scanned, and through AutoCAD we're able to scale that out. So this, this is essentially, 16, 18 inches tall. We know we want our elephant 14 feet tall, and it's easy enough once all the components are scanned to say, okay, let's blow this up to a certain, percentage point larger. The model's patterns were scanned, and we sent that out to a large company that has a gigantic plasma cutting setup, and they were able to cut these big panels and ship them back to us. So we just had to form. So this, as you can imagine here, this piece is a single panel. On the actual animal, this piece is 5.5 feet tall roughly, and every bit of 4.5 feet wide. The base material for the actual piece is Core 10 steel, which is it's a material that is alloyed. It's a steel material, but it's alloyed specifically for the ability to get a patina rust, as we know it, so it sheens with rust and then stops oxidizing. So there's no further breakdown of the base material, and so essentially this object will look rusty, and 100 years from now will still look exactly like it looks a year from now. There's an axis structure inside the elephant. So there's a full vertical plane of 1/4-inch plate that runs the length of the elephant from tail to the tip of the nose and down into the legs. We ended up, and then there's also a lateral element that runs around the center and cross sections that, and then all these outer body panels tie those together to give you structure. We doubled up and basically cross-sectioned. Each of the legs now has a T that runs up the entire leg on both sides. When putting together something that's life-size, and in this case life-size being much bigger than people, one of the key things that has to be considered is its effect on the viewer, and effect meaning not just the emotional effect, but the literal physical effect. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that when we build an object that's twice the size of people, that it is structurally stable and able to hold itself up and is safe around the viewer.